Hi, welcome back. Today I'm gonna do an announcement. I'm going to be posting two videos today just because it's my birthday. I want to celebrate it. So most of these videos are gonna be about my favorite class, which is going to be the next video is going to be a class guide on the class which I personally relate to the most. But today we're going to talk about the SCP universe and my favorite organization, or former organization, because it's technically not around during modern times. And this is the Chicago Spirit. Now, if you know anything about Prohibition, which is, if you don't know, a quick history lesson, it was during a time when America banned the use of alcohol. You couldn't drink a beer or wine or anything which had alcohol in it. And that resulted in gangsters, of course, fighting with booze and that sort of stuff. And that's where our story starts, with us getting introduced to Richard Davis Chapel, or Chapelism, I'm going to be calling him. Now, Chapel was a unique person, mainly because he wasn't normal. He was an anomaly. He was specifically a reality bender, meaning, just like the name says, he can bend reality to whatever what the hell he wants. And so far as at least I was able to get information, we don't know how old he was or when he was born. All we know that was that when he was 12, he dumped a rival newspaper boy, because he worked with the newspapers, into the Chicago River and he drowned. So that's all we know about his childhood. Now, originally, he started off just working at the Spirit. It was a bar originally, but during Prohibition, they changed to more unique stuff. Chapel himself started to recruit anomalies, not and which means that in the hierarchy, while the normal goons were normals, the higher ups that ran the Spirit with Chapel were all anomalous in one way or another. Now you're probably wondering why the SCP Foundation didn't get involved, because they tend to get involved with other groups of interest or other organizations. That was because the Foundation was just starting out. They were roughly around the Civil War was when they were founded, which was just a 10 a few years, a decade or two later. Later they will appear, so the Chicago Spirit would appear. So the Chicago Spirit were very unique. They were anomalous gangsters, basically. Now what we know about Chapel was that he made anomalous artifacts, to be exactly. And these are could be anything from and one of his most famous anomalies were that he was able to put bodies into works of fiction. For an example, in a book, it could be describing a body of a girl, and it would turn out that that girl actually died. So that is how Chapel was able to get away with all these murders, because he stuffed them all in fiction. And the Foundation still don't know how the hell he was able to get or even do that. But my theory is probably some reality bending shenanigans. He was bending reality, so for all we know, we could bend reality to just put them in fiction. Now, today we're going to specifically be talking about SCP-983, which was a heist which happened in 1914, which was performed by Chapel and five other men that they robbed the bank. And to quickly explain, we have Chapel, who was a reality bender, a man who could control fire, a man who had anomalous persuasion, or if you ever read the Percy Jackson books, it's basically the same ability as Piper McQueen's Trump speak. Basically, he could manipulate people to do what he wanted. We had a man with superhuman strength and two Chinese twins that were thaumal entities, aka they could use magic. Now, before that, they were able to get in contact with a woman who made them 7 vials. Remember, 7 vials of a potion that could transform them into bank guards, which they used to used to rob the bank. Sadly, it didn't go as successful, as 5 out of the 6 members, everyone except Chapel, were captured by the Foundation, with Chapel escaping, probably with his reality bending powers. And the man in charge of this whole thing was a man by the name of Agent Peck, who interviewed all the 5 members. The persuasion guy, the strong guy, and the fire guy didn't know a lot because they weren't the ones doing the planning. It was Chapel, the woman, and the twins. And the twins knew the fire guy knew that he didn't know a lot about magic or how it worked, but he knew enough to know that the twins couldn't have put the gold farther away than in the city, so it couldn't be outside of Chicago because it was apparently a fuck ton of money, so they weren't able to transport it outside of the city. Now, it was later discovered in Agent Pick's apartment was Agent Pick, who had been dead for a few weeks to up to a month, and the twins dead. And it was then turned out that 7th vial was a vial of Agent Pick, which means that it was Chapel who was Agent Pick, who was interviewing the crew, he was able to find the gold, kill both members, or were able to kill the twins and ditch the other 3 with the money. So yeah, that's where the 7th vial comes in, because he was impersonating Agent Pick and interviewing them to get where the gold was, and that apparently Agent Pick hadn't been dead for a month. And now we're going more into the end of the Spirits era. Now, as it had been turned out, as many gangsters, there were rumors in the Chicago underworld that Chapel's abilities to bend reality has become weaker. And that was the reason why the Foundation raided them, took him into custody, killed him, and took all of his anomalous artifacts which he had in his personal collection. He, of course, denied being a reality bender, saying that it was a member called Mr. Knight who was the real man in charge and that he was normal. But it's generally agreed on that he was lying, and that because there are no records about a man called Mr. Knight. So it's presumed that Chapel lied to get his ass out of jail. And that's the basic story. The Chicago Spirit isn't that of a complex group. They were just anomalous gangsters, but I've always liked them a bit because they're kind of fun.